Hey everybody, it's Wednesday. I'm pre-recording this Tuesday. Sorry, Delilah started squawking at me as soon as I started recording. And this one is by request. If you join us on Twitch on Tuesdays, you get to have your say in what content I do some Wednesdays. Sometimes I'm like, nah, I know what to do. But this week I wasn't quite sure. The news has just been weird, and after the Twitch thing yesterday, I didn't want to do more Twitch stuff. But then some people in the Twitch chat where I was playing Sanitarium, crazy, like it's this wonderful combination of like really well done and legitimately creepy and super quaint and adorable. I know that doesn't make sense, but people in the chat started talking about this thing called FairTube. And so this is by request. Today I'm going to talk about FairTube. Now, FairTube is the sort of elevator pitch is it's a union for YouTubers organized in Europe, where unions still have a lot more power than they do in certainly America, but by extension North America. And so this was very interesting to me, but what I see it as is a way to bring awareness to the issues facing YouTubers created by the platform. And this is why I've decided to cover this, because on that metric, it's very, very interesting. It was started by a German gent who did catapult and crossbow videos where he was all of a sudden getting demonetized, I guess for violence. I don't know why, but or his videos were getting pulled outright, but I think they were demonetized. I could be wrong there, but I immediately went, okay, I can understand why this guy thought it was silly, because a young person, an impressionable young person, would have to get a hold of a catapult to replicate what he's doing in these videos, or a crossbow, which is not the easiest thing to use. It's not like you see on TV. Those devices take a certain amount of strength even to draw back the bow, and then a lot of skill to use. I speak as somebody with hands that don't work very well. I do not have the finger strength to pull back that crossbow bow. So let's get into it. This is FairTube, a campaign to get more fairness and transparency for all YouTube creators. And what I like about this campaign is unlike previous attempts at this stuff, it's stuff that's imminently reasonable and imminently doable. Let me switch over to a picture in a picture here so you can see me talking as well. So their proposals are: publish all categories and decision criteria that affect monetization and views of videos. I think that's something we'd all like. Give clear explanations for individual decisions. For example, if a video is demonetized, which parts of the video violated which criteria in the advertiser-friendly content guidelines. This would be so simple to do through YouTube's screening process. All they would have to do is give the employees that screen the videos a code, especially through the manual review process, as somebody is watching it anyway. If you request a manual review and they uphold the demonetization, just send an email, because they send an email anyway, a generated email saying, congratulations, your video is approved for all advertisers, or limited ads still remain on your video. They send you an email anyway. So just have as part of the email the element in the content guidelines that they claim you breached, they claim you broke. So at least you know, and you have a hope in hell of not doing it again. This next one, I know YouTube is going to fight tooth and nail because humans are expensive. Give YouTubers a human contact person who is qualified and authorized to explain decisions that have negative consequences for YouTubers and fix them if they are mistaken. This doesn't have to be a phone line. this can be an email or a chat service. I know that a lot of people would be willing to wait to speak to someone, as is the top YouTubers have access to this kind of thing that I understand, but at least through their MCNs, whereas rank and file, like independent operators like me, don't have that. They claim you can contact YouTube, but they never get back to you. I've filled out their surveys. I've watched their stupid YouTube community videos with their fake "is this thing on" thing at the beginning. And it's just, not only are the people that run YouTube not real great at making YouTube videos, but it's really uninformative. It's a bunch of non-speak. I just made that up. And then let YouTubers contest decisions that have negative consequences. You kind of already do, but there's no appeals process. Like, you can request a manual review, but there's no appeals process. So that's a fair one. And this was the one that I found interesting. Create an independent mediation board for resolving disputes, like an ombudsman. That's a very interesting idea, because most public broadcasters, actually I think all public broadcasters, have an ombudsman. I know the CBC here does. Privately owned TV stations are part of the CBSC, Canadian Broadcast Standards Council. The CBC, because it's a crown corporation, has an ombudsman, and the ombudsman publicly publishes his or her opinions and rulings on various things. It's interesting to read sometimes. It's quite informative. So an ombudsman is actually a really good idea. Now, they'd have to have multiple ombudsmen because they'd be flooded with stuff. But granted, considering the number of people who watch a TV station, they're probably still flooded. They don't have to review every complaint. They can. I think the CBC Ombudsman does. Anyway, I'm rambling. And then formal participation of YouTubers in important decisions, for example, through a YouTuber advisory board. And the interesting thing is that this has been going on for, somebody's playing over there. This has been going on for about a month now. I just found out about it. You see the countdown clock. This is going to be out of date by the time this video goes live, but there's about 8-ish days, right? Until they asked YouTube to negotiate with them by August 23rd. Now, this website doesn't say what happens on August 23rd. Some of the articles I've read about this say on August 23rd, they may take legal action about this, which I find really interesting. The core of the argument is that YouTube's content creators are not truly independent contractors. They're more like employees, in that YouTube has what they call fine control over what you get paid for. Now, that argument may work in Europe. I think it's dead on arrival in the US with the Supreme Court being the way it is right now. I mean, Gorsuch being on the Supreme Court pretty much indicates this has no hope in the US courts. But Europe is more union friendly in this regard. So this is curious to me, but YouTube didn't respond to FairTube at all. They didn't respond to quite a few media requests. They did, however, respond to Forbes when Forbes covered this. And so FairTube responded to YouTube's response to Forbes as a sort of point-by-point thing. So that's the next thing I'm going to go through, just to inform you of this issue, because I didn't know about it until now. And I think this is interesting, because I expect that when the clock counts down, this group that has like 21,000 members on its Facebook page-ish, they're going to have to do something. It's going to be shit or get off the pot time. And so that's when things are going to get really interesting. We finally find out what specific legal argument they make. But what YouTube said in response to the FairTube thing was, We're deeply invested in creators' success. That's why we share the majority of revenue with them. Whoops. We also need to ensure that users feel safe and that advertisers feel confident that YouTube is safe for their brand. We take lots of feedback as we work to get this balance right, including by meeting with hundreds of creators every year. However, contrary to what is being claimed, YouTube creators are not YouTube employees by legal status. And one thing immediately jumped out at me was we meet with hundreds of creators every year, as FairTube said about that. That's a tiny, tiny, tiny portion of the number of people working on YouTube. And I guarantee you they're the top, right? With the private advertisers and all that stuff. The demonetization is not going to hurt somebody with direct private sponsorship the same way it's the rank and file. Now, you can't make a decent amount of money. You can't make a fair amount of money for the amount of traffic you get just based on YouTube ad revenue. You need something like Patreon or direct sponsorships or something like that to really make what this content is worth. You can't do it just based on YouTube ad revenues. YouTube ad revenues are ridiculous peanuts. So more on that in a bit. This idea that YouTube creators aren't YouTube's employees by legal status is true. And what I find interesting is the union that this German YouTuber and his organization joined up with is a metal workers union that allows self-employed people to join the union to negotiate for things like medical benefits, which I thought was very interesting because that makes YouTube's claim far less simple. In the US, it's cut and dried. They're not going to get anywhere with it in the US. In Europe, like I said, it's not so simple. I still think this is an uphill climb. I still think the ultimate goal is to just sort of get enough PR that YouTube feels pressured to change their tactics. And, this idea that users feel safe, what's going to jump out at you from your video screen? Now, in terms of like cyber stalking and things like that, those are all very serious issues. I don't mean to be glib about that. But just a regular person watching YouTube, a video can't hurt you. It can horrify you. It can make you wish you hadn't seen that. It can shock you. It can disturb you, but it can't physically hurt you. And I roll my eyes. People have been watching my content for a while. I roll my eyes when people start talking about a safe online experience. It's not about that. It's about the mental well-being, the emotional well-being of the people online. That's not exactly a safety thing. It's still important, but that begs the question, with all the crackdown on advertisers, why does so much junk get through YouTube? And the reality is YouTube just has to hire more people as actual employees to actually screen this stuff better. Algorithms can't do it because the bad actors, the people who are using it for, like group recruitment and things like that, their reason for being is knowing how to game the algorithm and get around YouTube's sort of automated stuff. So you need train people who can outsmart these guys as a rule. And when I said that, remember I said that thing about, employees, more on that later, how you really make money on YouTube. This is what I want to sort of end on as a sort of message of support. If the FairTube people happen to watch this, there's no reason that an organization with 21,000 some odd members and the backing of an established union can't create their own ad shop and offer preferential monetization rates with embedded sponsored content, like just provide users the ads, and we'd run them if I decide to join for a certain cut of for a certain use, payment per click, whatever, flat fee, whatever, probably payment per click. There would be some administration, and there would have to be some reasonable annual dues so that people can do that work. But with a body of content creators that large, it's feasible. And what you basically end up doing is you become a giant multi-channel network, and you just do an end run around YouTube's BS ad system, and everybody would have to click like this video contains sponsored content and all that stuff. There's more work for people involved, but I'm pretty sure if the increase in revenue was significant enough, it would be worth it to people. And advertisers would probably enjoy it, because then they get to go, look, first of all, we're getting better bang for our buck, because the union can also serve as a sort of business association that they screen all applicants before they let you in. They make sure your content is of a certain quality. They vet you so advertisers can go, okay, these are people that we feel more secure giving our ad dollars to. We know we're going to get a certain amount of quality out of this buy. That could be really powerful. And so I'm talking less union and more trade association. But it sounds like what this metalworkers union in Germany is it's sort of adapted to more of sort of a quasi-trade association that way as well. And that could be really powerful, because it could, and there's absolutely no reason you can't do this. YouTube can't say you can't embed sponsored content on your video. Like, all people would have to do is, this video is brought to you by, and little like old style radio live read, show a little picture, done, boom, it's right in the video. YouTube can't do anything about it. You just have to click the sponsored content box when you upload your video. All of this is totally within YouTube's rules. And I think that would hit YouTube in the pocketbook, because if advertisers know their videos are much less likely to end up on stuff they're not crazy about, like terrorist recruiting videos, they're gonna work with an independent group like this with a very large roster of videos. And because it's per click, because you get paid based on number of views, it's no different. It's a higher quality return on investment for the people making these ad rates. And they can feel good that their money is going towards treating online content creators more humanely than YouTube did. And that sort of fair market competition, that sort of creativity in that regard is, I think, what's actually going to win this hearts and minds war, because of that stumbling block in the US about unions. And as FairTube said, they're concerned that because the structures in Europe are so different than the structures in America, only European YouTubers are going to benefit from this, and no one else will. And I think that making it a sort of international trade association with a side of multi-channel network that handles the sponsorships and does it that way has a better payout. You'll get a huge membership boost, and people are more than willing to spend a little bit of money as long as it's reasonable. Like a, $75 application just to keep the yahoos out. $75 application so that they can screen your content and then you're in, right? They want to do, you have to renew every 5 years or 10 years or whatever they want to do, fine, even if it's annual. But people, if they are making It's the way unions work. You make enough extra money because of the increased wages and benefits you get from collective bargaining that your union dues are worth it, because you're still making more money even with those dues factored in. A lot of unions do that less and less, but this one could. This one could. And because they seem to have solid bones starting with it, because they seem to have reasonable expectations and they sort of know what is reasonable to expect and what's not, they're certainly making a lot of noise. They're getting quite a bit of press. And, maybe their legal battle will succeed in Europe. Maybe it won't. But there's still places they can go, just because when you start to get membership in the 5 figures, that's very powerful. And, I'd like to see it be more of a trade association, something much more within the capitalist framework than, a traditional socialist union structure, which a lot of unions more and more are, because that could really work. You guys know I'm not big on unions for online stuff with video games and all this stuff. This is the first one where I've seen it, and it's like, you know what? Their requests are eminently reasonable. YouTube should not have to be shamed into providing transparency, but they do. Or forced, or whatever, hook or by crook, right? Their demands are reasonable. And so, maybe I will give their... Okay, I'm going to let you guys decide. This is going to be the Feedback Friday question. I'm going to let you guys decide, should I join their Facebook group? Should I sign up for this? It's going to be not just how many people say yes and no, because who knows how many comments there are going to be. I want good arguments for and against. And it's going to be more about which arguments I find the most persuasive, because I'm pushing for these high quality comments. All right, you guys know I love my high quality comments. So that's what it's going to be. That's what the feedback I'm going to focus on this Friday will be about. What do you think? Should I stay away, or should I join? It's just joining a Facebook group, quite frankly, but it's not joining a union and dues and everything like that. But because YouTube ad revenue sucks so much, you know what's coming. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. It is the best way to insulate independent creators like myself from these advertiser-driven market shocks. It's a nice sort of reliable base beginning. It's not enough on its own, but it's a nice reliable start, right? So Patreon support helps a lot, and you get advance notice of a lot of things and get to have your say. The Patreons got to provide their choices for the original boss fight list, for instance. So that's what you get with your Patreon support. Thanks for watching.